Hello, good afternoon and good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, Mr. Udiala.
Mr. Udiala.
Oh,
Good
oh,
evening, Mr. Odiala. You're
yeah,
welcome.
thank you, gentlemen.
Welcome, sir. We're
Thank
giving it 5 minutes, so we have more people joining before we get started. We're
Okay.
having a real high inflow of participants, so we want to have a substantial number before we can
Yeah,
kickstart.
that's wonderful. Thank you.
All right, sir.
Listen, I'm not with you because Nyeti na big as humble. Is an egg and I'll get ready more comfortable. Because you're not that as your home.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the FarmNet webinar. So the time is 4:05, so I believe we can kickstart today's webinar. I'm going to introduce myself again. I remain Emmanuel Ebeshi, your host for today. And today we'll be discussing a very vital component of agriculture, one that most of us here as farmers are very familiar with, the cassava value chain. Today's theme is promoting cassava value chain in Nigeria as an agribusiness opportunity. And to provide insights and to educate us properly on this value chain, we have none other than Mr. Unduka Udiala, who is a cassava value chain expert and a veteran in the space. Um, so I'm going to jump right in and introduce Mr. Udiala by reading out his bio for all of us here. So Mr. Udiala is a graduate of University of Nsukka with a bachelor's degree and master's in marketing from University of Nigeria, Enugu campus in the year of 2000. He had certification and training in developing agricultural value chain in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. He also got trained by Making Sense slash USAID Markets too as a certified trainer of Nigeria Agriculture Enterprise Curriculum, NAEC, on package of agronomic practices for cassava, sorghum, rice, and tomato. He is a certified chartered mediator and conciliator and trained as a conflict manager by Conflict Management and Leadership Institute, Canada. His business background, he has worked mostly in the private sector, setting up businesses and working with non-governmental organizations until February 2010, when he joined National Fadama Development Project Abuja, a World Bank assisted agricultural project under the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, where he worked for 9 years touring the 36 states and Federal Capital Territory. He served as community development and rural livelihood and finance specialist, through which he was able to help the rural farmers implement their sub-projects and mobilize savings, therefore, for sustainability of their enterprises. One of such savings output is the establishment of Plateau State's Fadama Microfinance Bank in Jos, which now has branches in many local government areas in Plateau State. He worked as an agribusiness investment management officer in charge of cassava value chain in the Fadama project from January 2024 to January 2019. Through this time, he superintended the implementation of cassava business plans in 18 states in Nigeria and brought innovative changes in cassava value chain development as a sustainable agribusiness, which has continued till date. He is a coach, trainer, mentor, farmer, entrepreneur, and a consultant. Through his company, Sindozi International Limited, a nutrition-sensitive agricultural company, he has been campaigning and championing the production, processes, and distribution of high nutrients food crops like orange flesh sweet potato, vitamin A cassava, vitamin A maize, iron beans, and carrots. He's passionate and about dealing with food and nutrition security in Nigeria and other sub-Saharan African countries. He's a strategic partner with Federal Ministry of Women Affairs. He also consulted for IFAD and VCDP on value chain enterprise development for cassava and rice, business plan implementation and market development. He consulted for Nigeria incentive-based risk sharing system for agricultural lending on crop post-harvest management. He consulted for International Skill Acquisition Center, ISAC, CSS Group, Gora Nasarawa State on cassava, rice, potato, and carrot. He is a key resource person for Ibadan Business School and Supreme Management Consult Abuja. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest speaker for today, Mr. Esonu Unduka Udiala. Please, sir, let's hear from you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to this very important webinar. For me, this is a long desired opportunity to talk to people within and outside Nigeria. I want to tell us that I have friends who have joined us from Zimbabwe, from Kenya, from Uganda, people that I have taught under the orange flesh sweet potato who are also passionate to learn more about cassava. So I invited them to this meeting and several other people. I will also be bringing on board to share their experiences some of our state champions, people who excelled in our cassava value chain development during the FarmNet 3 additional financing project, and people who are still expanding their businesses in cassava business. So ladies and gentlemen, let me go straight into the discussion because it's not a long one. We just have 1 hour to do this. Cassava, I don't plan to go into all those jargons of what is the botanical name. That is not important in talking about agribusiness, cassava as an agribusiness. So I just want to go straight into what cassava is. Every one of us knows cassava. And for those who have been wondering, should anybody be doing business with cassava? Yes, very much yes. Nigeria is the highest producer of cassava in the world. And you are looking just like that. Is it possible? Yes, Nigeria is. And Nigeria is first in so many other areas, including potatoes. Unfortunately, the way we go about some of these important value chain crops is still very pitiable. Why is cassava so important? Cassava is necessary for food security. Cassava is necessary for nutrition, yes. Like it was mentioned that I'm championing the high production of vitamin A cassava. That type of cassava is also used in dealing with vitamin A deficiency issues in the world, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa. Cassava is needed in the industries. Come on, whether it is leather industry or the paper industry or textile industry, and then talk about the pharmaceuticals. Then you move into the animal feed. I'm talking of, apart from food, we are using it seriously in for industrial purposes. And so for anybody to go into cassava as a business, you can be sure of your market. And do you know what is going on now? Before I came on for this meeting, I had to confirm from my suppliers. As at yesterday, a ton, 1 metric ton of cassava tuber is going for 300 to 400,000 naira. And if you manage your 1 hectare farm of cassava, if you manage it well, it will give you between 20 to 30 metric tons. Now do the mathematics. And then somebody will be wondering, how much do I need to do my 1 hectare cassava? You need less than 2 million naira to do it. Yes, you need less than 2 million, because by the time we go into all the details, you will see that for your 1 hectare of cassava, all you need is 60 bundles of cassava stem. And currently, as at today, 1 bundle of cassava stem is going for 3,000 naira. The highest is 4,000. And so multiply 60 by 4,000, you see that it's still within 240,000. And then if you are going organic, you talk of your poultry droppings and some other organic manure. Otherwise, if you are going NPK and urea, all together you just need 8 bags. 6 bags of this, 2 bags of the other. 6 bags of NPK, 2 bags of urea. And the present cost of those fertilizers as at today is about 50,000 for 50 kg. Now you discover that by the time you put all these figures together, you'll be having a very good business in your hand. So that is why I'm passionate about this. So let me quickly go ahead with the basis of the cassava business. Now, how do I start my cassava business since we are being encouraged to do it? First of all, unlike the other crops that I work on, cassava is a long gestation crop. When we say long, we just mean relatively. Unlike rice, which is 90 to 120 days, potato 90 to 120 days, maize 90 to 120 days. Cassava is between 9 months to 18 months. Yes. And so I think the high return on it also is commensurate to the time it spends. But let me also give you a very good news. If you do your land preparation well, if you apply pre-emergent herbicide during land preparation, you will not need to do weeding until 3 months after germination, after sprouting. And by the time you do that one-time weeding, the canopies will start developing. And those canopies of your cassava will reduce the growth of weeds. And even if you needed to do a second weeding, you can actually do it. And that will not be much. So we have put all those factors into our estimates to come to what it will cost us to do 1 hectare of cassava, and then what will come out of it. So now, how do I choose the right variety? Because cassava comes in different varieties. There are different varieties. You must choose the one that is highly needed in your area, in your market area. When I say market area, it's not necessarily your local market, depending on where you are choosing your market. If you are choosing to produce for industries, the industries are looking for starch. So you will need the variety that stores starch very well. And so you will get that and plant. If you are looking to use it for garri making, that's another thing altogether. If you are looking for using it for nutrition basis, that's the yellow cassava. You are going purely for yellow cassava. That's another ballgame altogether. So the first thing in your business is, one, ownership of land. Whether you are leasing the land, you are renting it, or it is your own. Once you have land, what type of land? You must avoid waterlogged area, avoid clayey soil. Go for sand loamy soil. Go for well-drained soil, because this is a tuber crop. It doesn't need water at all. It doesn't need water to hang around it for a long time, unlike rice, which is a semi-aquatic crop. So let's make sure we have a good land that we are using. Yeah, you may have trees there, but if there are trees, you need to clear up those trees because your cassava need a lot of sunshine in order to do well, to give you good tubers. So you do that. So you get site selection, choose a good place. If your place is flat, that is a tableland, that is wonderful. But if for some reasons it is slopy, then while doing your land preparation, you make ridges. I will always encourage people to do ridges instead of heaps, because when you are using ridges on a slopy place, you just make your ridges across the slope. And so the runoff of water during rains will not affect your farm seriously. But if it is heaps you use, no, you can't easily stop the runoff of water. So it will be eroding those heaps. So I've talked about size selection. I've talked about variety selection. That market variety selection is market based. It is what you are producing for that will determine the variety of cassava you will choose. Then, of course, whatever market you are going for, look for the variety that can mature on time, that has good storage, that can store well, that can bulk well, store well, and resistant to local pests and diseases. Those are considerations. Finally, before we move into the last part of these agronomic practices. Now, we have done our site selection, we have done our land clearing and land preparation, then planting. Your cassava stem cutting must have a minimum of 5 nodes and a maximum of 7 to 9. We must pay attention to the nodes because some nodes, intra-node distance may be wide. It doesn't matter how wide it is. Make sure you have up to 5 nodes. If the intra-node spacing is small, and so the nodes are so close by, it doesn't matter. Make sure you have not less than 7 nodes on it. Why do I need to have this specific number? It is important to ensure sprouting, that your stem is able to sprout. Your stem doesn't dry up away. Your stem is able to have sustainable nutrients to sprout with vigor and to develop with vigor. That's why you need to be sure of the number of nodes in your stem cutting that you are going to plant. Of course, the last thing I want to talk in that area is, how do I plant? Yes, avoid planting just horizontal, that's just choking the stem cutting, boom, 90 degrees. No, rather slant it at 65, 70 degrees. When you do it like that, it helps the nodes to contact the soil very well. And as they are developing their roots easily move straight into the soil. And even when they develop and bulk, at time of harvesting, pulling out is also easy. So that is one way. But then sometimes there are 2 businesses in production, 2 businesses in cassava production. You can be doing tuber production, or you can be doing stem production, stem multiplication. And stem multiplication is a big business. How is it a big business? You don't need large land. In fact, you don't need 1 hectare to do your stem multiplication. If you have an acre, which is 4.125 4,125 square meters. If you have an acre, that's a big one. You can do your stem multiplication. And your stem multiplication, unlike tuber production, at 4 to 6 months, your stems are ready for harvest. And as you are cutting, more are sprouting on that same stem. And finally, when you are evacuating the farm, you will still have some tubers to get, which will give you a secondary income. Of course, right now, like I said, that a bundle of stem, that just 50 cuttings in a bundle, 50 cuttings of 1 meter stem is what makes a bundle. That 50 is what is going for 3,000 naira. And in some places, it's going for as much, and of course, some varieties, it's going for as much as 4,000 also. So you can quickly just get that, particularly if you're working with loan. If you borrow the money you are using for business, I think quick return is very important. And particularly because we are not yet doing much of cassava with irrigation. So we want to work within the time that we can have good rainfall. Good rainfall facilitates vegetative growth. Yes, so it makes our stems to grow faster too. So you can effectively actually start your business towards the end of the dry season. Of course, that's towards the end of the year, and multiply gradually. By the time the rains come up, your stems come out and you are ready for business. So that's that. If you're doing stem multiplication, the way you put your stem, you plant your stem cutting is another thing. There are two ways for stem multiplication. You can either cut short nodes, that's three nodes, not more than that. You plant those 3 nodes and you don't plant them in long distance. Okay, I didn't mention the planting distance and the plant population. For our planting distance, we use 1 meter distance intra row and along the row. Now, and that is, we are looking for 10,000 stands in 1 hectare. But you can actually do better by planting at 0.75 meters. That will give you 12,500 stands in 1 hectare, and that will give you a higher yield anyway. And so I think the variety you are planting also affects, because if you are planting the one that travels far, that the root will be meandering everywhere, you will need to give it a longer spacing. Now, also, if you are harvesting for big bulk, yes, you will need wider spacing. But if you are harvesting with average size, then it's better to do 0.75 and have more yield that will give you more also. Now, I have done with land site selection, land preparation, land clearing, land preparation, variety selection, and planting. Finally, once you plant, the next thing is farm maintenance. Farm maintenance. And I have earlier mentioned, if you did a good land preparation by applying pre-emergent herbicide, it will keep your farm neat. I must draw our ears to having our farm clean. We had an experience in one of our sites in Kogi State in 2014. What was it? There was fire outbreak in the farm, and fire just gutted large quantity of cassava. And part of the problem was because within and around the farm was bush all over the place. So you need to keep your farm clean. You need to keep your farm clean, and you need to do fire tracing. Fire tracing is that around your farm, keep all the path around it clean so that fire from the bush doesn't cross into your farm to eat up your harvest. Now check out for disease. Once you see signs of diseases or pests on your crop, get your agronomist, ask questions, and get your answer so that your crop can be maintained. Let me stop at this point, and then we take a few questions and contributions, and then we'll fire on. We've done about 20 minutes so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that really vast overview of the cassava value chain. You covered a lot of topics, a lot of areas in the cassava value chain, from input to land selection and preparation, and germination, all of that. So before we continue, I want to welcome everybody who is just joining us, who missed the introduction. This is the FarmNet webinar with the team promoting cassava value chain in Nigeria as an agribusiness opportunity. So if you have any questions, you can raise your hand up or you can leave it in the comment section. I would see it and I'll read it out to Mr. Udiala. So we're going to take our second question, and then after that, we can start taking questions from the rest of the participants. So the second question we have for Mr. Udiala is, what are some of the ways to organize the participation of public and private sectors in identifying and furthering discussions on policy issues affecting the cassava value chain infrastructure in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. You see, one thing that helps people to get involved in anything is knowledge. People cannot get involved in anything they don't know about. I remember that when we were pursuing the issues, the development of cassava value chain, that was in 2013, the World Bank, 2013, National Fadama Development Project 3 ended. But before it ended, the World Bank took interest in what Nigeria was doing in agriculture and decided to facilitate the development of cassava as a serious agribusiness value chain. And that was how Fadama 3 additional financing was set up to deal with 4 crops, of which cassava was one of them, which I headed. Now, the first thing we did was to move into the communities. Kogi was our core state, into the communities to talk to the people. Initially, people were doing cassava as a subsistence. In fact, cassava was more of the women crop. They looked at it as the women crop, not the men crop. But when we came in, we started with sensitization and mobilization. We had to bring them in and tell them that this thing is a gold mine. If it is properly managed, if it is properly done, you make a lot of money out of it. Some people gave us attention and were willing to be the early starters, and they joined. And they saw that within the first year of that project, they made their money and they repeated themselves again and again until they became chiefs. I will allow one of us to talk more about that too, particularly our champion in Kogi who oversaw what happened there. So what I'm saying is, people will not get involved in anything they are not aware of. Why I will bring Mrs. Lydia to give us a testimonial is that when Kogi State was producing a lot of cassava, one of the problems we had was, how do we now open it up for processing? The farmers were facing a problem that their cassava has matured, they are ready to harvest, and there was no market. And so we pushed out to talk about how do we raise off-takers? How do we raise processors? And Lydia, please, I want you to open up your microphone and share your experience, how you were able to mobilize and open up the market, the cassava business for the people to get involved, because she will answer this question very well with practical things that is still sustaining Kogi State up till now. Lydia, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Miss Lydia.
Good evening, Miss Lydia.
Yeah, my name is Lydia Ariwoli from Kogi State, and by the grace of God, I happen to be the public-private partnership expert during the Fadama additional financing in Kogi State. Our core crop then was cassava, and after we have mobilized the farmers to go into production, we discovered that during the harvest period, we had no people to pick up the tubers. So one of the initial thing we did was to go into on-farm processing. We started from on-farm processing for ground series in Jos, processing for one other company in Lagos by crushing the tubers into grits. because nobody was ready to pick up the tubers. We crushed it with the grater into chips, we dried them on the field, and we invited them to come and pick them in trucks. That gave us the first market that we had. And after that, we started liaising with processing companies. We went to Matna in Akure, Ondo State. They are into starch processing. And at the end of the day, we discussed with them. But one thing with them, if you are to produce for starch or ethanol, you need to monitor your farm very well to ensure that you have high starch content. When I mean high starch content, it will not be less than 20 percent. And because the testing will be done. But what did then was to ensure that we did random sampling, pick cassava from different points on the field, and took it to the factory for the test before we harvest. Because if you harvest and you transport to the company and your starch content is low, most especially below 15 or 17, they will reject it. And you begin to look at the cost of transporting cassava to the farm, to the factory, and returning it. And then nobody will take it because cassava is 70% water, if I will say. And
75%.
transporting it, so transporting it a long distance from the point of production is not encouraged. So it's advisable to look for the market even before going into production. And I encourage farmers in this area to even go as far as signing an MOU with any company that is into starch production or that can pick up their tubers before production. So at production, it will be seamless because some of them will bring their truck to the farm to pick the cassava from the farm. You will just solo the truck, take your weight, and in less than 24 hours, you get your money. Again, we have the food market. The food market are those that are processing gari, processing fufu, processing all sorts of foods. Those ones, they goes to the farm by themselves. They reduce the cost of transportation for the farmer. And as such, farmers will prefer most times to sell to the food market because they are not going to be transporting. They are not going, they will just stay on their farm. The processors will come to the farm, they will harvest, and they will take the tubers away and give them their cash. So they will now cut down the cost of production. Again, we got a stage when we were beginning to produce more than expected, and the companies were not coming forth. We had to start encouraging farmers to go into processing of gari, and that was the high one. I There was a time I had to monitor Gary from Kogi to Kano State. I followed a truck from Kogi to Kano to see where our Gary is going to. Because the farmers that are even the processors that are even going into Gary production, they have different types of Gary. Some process halfway, some process full ways. And the halfway is not consumed most times. They are also used as raw materials for other companies, like the biscuit company, some of them in Kano. So talking about the cassava, the market is there, but the way you add value to the produce will also determine what you are getting. But just to add to what Mr. Udela said about production, I want to beg us, if we are going into cassava production, the timing is very, very important. And why I want to hammer on that is because if you are talking about producing for factory, producing for food, and also processing for going into stem multiplication, we have to be very, very timely. I'll say that because most farmers harvest their cassava in August, in September, in July. For me, it's wrong. It's the wrong one. I encourage farmers to plant cassava first. We are going into the rainy season. If you are supposed to be preparing for cassava production, by now your land should be ready. And why I say so is because if you plant cassava now and you are aiming at harvesting at 9 to 12 months, which is the highest peak of the starch content, after 12 months, the starch content will begin to go down. So if you are producing for any starch factory or ethanol factory, ensure that after good agronomic practices are followed, harvest your cassava between the period of 10 to 12 months. After that period, don't take your cassava to any factory. Take it to the fruit processors for garri and whatever. And why I was also hammering on the point of production is because you make more money when you are talking about business. You make more money producing cassava early in the year. One, if you plant your cassava in April or May, you are expected to harvest it in March or April. Now, at the time you are harvesting it in March or April, your land can be recycled. You will have enough people looking for cassava cotton to sell your cuttings to them. So you will not have cuttings wasted. And in each full plot of a hectare, if you do it very well, you are expected to have extra cuttings that will plant another 4 hectares. I hope we are getting this. Now, if you harvest your 1 hectare and you plant from the cuttings that you have harvested, you also have another cutting that will plant another 4 hectares. And when you are to expand, it becomes easy. But when you are to sell, you also sell to farmers that are going into the business newly and they don't have cuttings. So selling your cuttings and harvesting at the onset of the rain gives you one high starch content and also sales of cuttings, which will give you double profit for your production. Now, these cuttings that you are going to harvest in April, none will be lost. In May, none will be lost. When you harvest your cassava in July, a lot of people would have cultivated. A lot of your cuttings will be wasted. And it then means that you are planting in July and harvesting in another year, July. So I had to correct this with some of my farmers. The farmers that were interested in this business, I have to correct it for them to go back and start planting in April, because planting in July was not favorable. They were losing their cuttings, and in July, the starch content in the cassava tubers are very, very low. So you won't be able to sell to factory as much and make a lot of money. They will
Thank you so
reject some of the
much.
tubers. So those are the technicalities in making this business sweet. If you go into just production without going into the details of when you will get money or how the business will move forward, you will then be losing a lot. But in all, let's be conscious of the headers who go about our farms to destroy cassava. A friend of mine just sent me a video this afternoon of a farm that he left just 2 weeks. All the tubers and all the cuttings have been destroyed by headers. And as we speak, if after this meeting, I'll send a video to Mr. Odella. There is nothing on the field. He has taken loan and he has done a lot to invest in the farm. But as we speak, there is nothing on the farm. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lydia. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can see from the fields what is going on. I'm very grateful to Lydia because she has also brought up the risks in this business. I know that this will be one of the questions, so it is already answered ahead. So if we are going into this thing, since it's more or less an annual crop, a crop that stays up to 1 year, then we must be careful because during the dry season, the headers eat up anything that is green. We must be careful where we plant and how we manage so that we don't wash our hand and crack palm kernel for the chicken. Let's take one more question before I bring in somebody that is doing a very serious industrial work with cassava that will encourage those who say, I don't want to go into production, all I want to do is into processing. Then we will show you the areas you can start with. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Nduka, and also Miss Lydia. for your testimonial and your real life experience planting cassava. We have a couple of questions from our participants. So we'll take the first one from Dr. Nuruddin Lawal. He says, what is the economic viability and practicability of implementing irrigation systems in cassava cultivation? Would you recommend this?
Yeah.
You see, like I said, it's a long gestation crop. Yes, in as much as you have the rain belt period, but because this is a tuber crop and it's a long tuber crop, unlike potatoes, which are just around, they don't go far. For you to really do irrigation, you will need a lot of, you can't use drip. You will actually need flooding, the other types of irrigation to work on it. Yeah, I will not encourage because irrigation is quite costly. I'm doing irrigation in my potato farm. I'm doing irrigation. But where irrigation comes in very handy is particularly in stem multiplication. If you are doing stem multiplication as a business, particularly like Lydia has said, you want to have your stem available by March, April, when farmers will be going to plant. Like I can tell you that from this month, 15th of this month, anybody booking for stem will pay literally through his nose because almost everybody will be looking for stem. And so somebody can go into stem multiplication as the business. In that case, he plants because we have said that the stem is ready for harvest in 4-6 months, particularly 5-6 months. So if you plant in November, and by that time rain is gone, you will certainly need irrigation. Do you understand? So I'm saying that there is an aspect of the business that can actually be promoted with irrigation. Yes, you can do that. And if you're able to promote your stem multiplication business with irrigation, by the time the rain season comes, which is late April, May till October, depending on which part of the country you are, then your tubers will be growing, your stems will be growing for the next batch of people. So that irrigation is not a very encouraging one, except if you are going into stem multiplication. And for the issue of viability, like I said, the business is highly viable. It's highly viable. You can't, unless you didn't make your research or you are not open to connections on time. Before your cassava matures, you would have been able to source a market that will pick up your stuff. But like Lydia said, it's better that you start on time because if your farm is very far away from your market area, logistics is a major problem and that can eat up your profit. And so otherwise, it's a highly profitable business.
Okay. So to Dr. Lawal, was that did he answer the questions correctly? Did he give you a good feedback on what you were looking for, sir? Hello, Dr. Lawal, are you with us, sir?
Yes, perfectly so.
Okay, all right, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to the next question. We have Valentina Garcia. She said, what type of fertilizer suits best on cassava? Do you recommend to use nanotechnology?
Now, so much is being done, and I always ask people, I will call up Lydia to share some of the experiences that we established. If you are into food, producing for food, it's very important to mind what fertilizer you bring in and at what point you put it. Because if you don't apply it at the right time, the residue will remain in that, and it will translate into the food, and it will affect whether it is human beings or animals that eat it. Yes, it's important that I mention this too, because we use cassava for animal feed. So if there is heavy residue of these things left in the tubers, it will affect lives. So Lydia, briefly, just share some experiences, particularly, we promoted organic fertilizer and organic manure. Like right now, what I've been buying up a lot of poultry droppings from the poultry in my farm area for my farm. Yes, but I also know that there are already established organic fertilizers that could be used for not necessarily going through this other animal droppings and all that. Yes, we also, through our potato stuff, we're also processing some organic fertilizer. So, but Lydia, just put in your word there before I call up earlier.
Thank you very much, sir. When we started, we had two areas of focus, and for the fertilizer, 8 bags NPK, but then the timing, like I said, if you plant cassava in April, you are expected to apply fertilizer after 2 months. If you plant it in April and you are applying fertilizer after 2 months, that is April, May, or May, June, it is expected that you allow rain. If you are putting fertilizer, there should be 5 months of rain after the fertilizer application before the rain goes off. If you are planting in September, October, you are putting fertilizer in November, there is no rain that will take it for another 5 months. And with that, the residual deposits in the tubers will not be utilized if you are harvesting the cassava before another rain. In that case, you will have to leave it for another rain to come over and neutralize it before you harvest. And that is why when you go to our local farms, you discover that when some people are having weeding their farm, the second weeding per se, you will see grains of fertilizers coming down from the ridges. It's not advisable. But we did that and we monitor it. One of the farmers that I tried to take him back to the system of planting April, May, who we started with 1 hectare, is having about 7 hectares now. He has been consistent, and as at last year, he has gotten a processing center, processing Gary also, that is adding value to the tubers. He speaks with me almost every week to get updates. Like the rain is coming, I have to connect him with where he can get tractor to make sure that he get his farm done on time. But there is the other side of it, that we allowed the cattle to graze the land. We had that in one of the local government, and we moved the cattle to another settlement. And when we planted without fertilizer, we had about 28 tons per hectare in Odape, if you remember. We had
Yes,
28 tons per hectare. Eventually, those people did not use fertilizer, and we tried it too. So it is using fertilizer, and the effect of using it is dependent on when it is utilized and how it is managed. And that is why we kept saying following due agronomic practices. If the good agronomic practices are followed and you take it within the months and the time of application, the effect will not be there. But if it is not done, you plant cassava in July, August, and you apply fertilizer in September, I bet you have residual deposits. That is
thank
just.
Okay. Thank you very much, Miss Lydia. I think Miss Valentina needs some more clarification with regards to the nanotechnology as an organic fertilizer. She wants to know if it can be applied.
We have not used it before.
Okay, all right.
So we want somebody who have used it to talk about it. We allow farmers to allow their plots to be grazed and also allow farmers to use fertilizer. So we have these two scenarios in the state, and that has been working perfectly for us.
Yeah,
Okay.
I will personally say that, yeah, just like Lydia has said. Now, that nanotechnology, you see, whatever you are bringing into the system, agronomically, we also require that you do a test run. There should be a demo plot where you test run it before it is recommended. So for us, particularly when we're doing public speaking, addressing people from different parts of Nigeria and the world, there are things we are not very comfortable to just make a statement and put it there. Rather, we share the ones that have succeeded, which is known and which can be applied. So you can do a trial on that nanotechnology and then see the outcome, and then it can now be your input, your contribution to knowledge on this value chain. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So Ms. Valentina, I believe Mr. Udiala has shared what practices have been efficient, what have proved effective in his so far and working in the cassava value chain, planting crops and harvesting them. So we will take other questions now. We have one from Mr. Oluwaseyi Akanji, and then we take one more before Mr. Udiala introduces his colleague. So let's take Mr. Akanji's question. He says, please, can you tell us the different varieties and what we can use it for them to, okay, for pupuru. Please, is there a difference between pupuru and cassava flour?
I want to ask, pupuru, is it English or is it a local
So,
dialect?
I believe, Mr. Kanji, if you're here, maybe you can clarify so you get a good response to your question. Hello, Mr. Kanji, are you with us? Okay.
Okay. So let's just talk about the different varieties. We have the TMS varieties. We have TMS 30572, TMS 97/2205, TMS 98/0505, TMS 98/0510, and a lot of them. And then we have the other types, the NR 8082, the NR 8083. And then we also have the TMS 0581, which is also the yellow cassava. So now these ones I have mentioned, they grow well, they grow fast.
TME 419.
Yes, TME 419, thank you. Yeah. And that TME 419 was the one we actually championed when we were doing Fadamatri additional financing. Has a lot of starch output, is very good in processing into gari. It stores well, it has also high dry matter too. Yes.
And drought resistance.
Yes. And I know that IITA has come up with a latest release. I don't have they released it, but they just showed it up on their platform that works very well and gives very high yield. They say it stores up to 40-45% starch on its system and all that. So, like we said, it's very important that one gets to start from market. Start from market. Who am I producing for? Particularly if you're going commercial, I'm sorry, if you're going commercial, don't just do it. They say pupuru is processed from cassava and like, yeah, so it's cassava flour. Check out your market. What do they want? It is what they want that will determine what variety to go for. And it is also very important that we make use of knowledge base around us. We have ADPs, we have people who are working in agri projects around. So you can, don't be shy to send out questions. And of course, you can also get answers from Google. Yes, you can, AI can give you all those things. But I always trust these personal experiences that people have had, because you can hold somebody responsible for influencing your idea, not just a machine. And so that is that. We cannot just tell you take this or take that. Your land, your type of soil, yes, your type of soil also affect the output from a particular variety. A variety that is doing so well somewhere else may come to your soil and not do as much. So it is also very important if you can do, particularly if you're going large scale, like what I've done this year in my farm. I did soil testing. It's very important to check out your soil, know what it has and what you need to put, particularly as we are discussing this. Your cassava needs certain things. Find out whether your soil has that or what you may need to add to get that. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll take one last question from Mr. Tijani. His is quite specific. He says, is cassava, or is Bornu a good land to plant cassava?
Yeah, now I was just looking at Nigeria and looking at what cassava really requires to survive. Cassava does well in a sandy, loamy soil. Now, Boronu can be, because it's a sandy place, it can be a good place to grow this if we are sure of rainfall. If your soil has humus, don't forget, before you start even adding any other thing, the soil should have some natural thing now. It should have its own, which by the time you add other things, it will continue. So that rainfall is very important. Rainfall is very important in your cassava production. If you are unable to achieve 5 months of straight rain season, your cassava may not do so well. Do you understand? So, but in places like Taraba, I know that Taraba does a lot of cassava. Of course, the Middle Belt, Benue, Niger, all those areas, there's so much. But there are areas, even when we come to states, like I was talking with Samuel. Samuel is here from Cross Rivers. He was telling me this evening that their own part of Cross River, which is northern part of Cross River, has not had rain. Whereas the Calabar part, central and southern, have been having a lot of rain. Meanwhile, the northern part of Cross River is where you have more land. They have vast land. So the availability of rainfall is a major determinant in cassava business. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Udiala, for answering the questions of our participants with so much detail, and also Ms. Lydia for providing input as well and guidance to the clarification of these questions being asked. So we're just going to, okay, Ms. Valentina has some more questions, and I see a couple of our other participants have some more questions, but we're slowly coming to the end of the webinar. So we're going to advise that you look to the comment section. There is a pinned comment that highlights our website, www.agropea.co, and our social media, AgroP Group, and also our email, info@agropea.co. So if you have more questions and your questions were not answered here, you can forward them to our email. You can follow us on social media and chat us up on Facebook or Instagram. Just leave us a message and we will get back to you with the answers to your questions. So we've come to the end of today's webinar. We will just give the floor to Mr. Udiala to give us some parting words, something that we will take with us from the webinar, besides the wealth of knowledge that he has vested on us. So please, Mr. Udiala, just give us some parting words.
Yeah, I want to encourage us to go into this business. I just want to seek your permission for 90 seconds, that's 1.5 minutes, for this lady earlier that had been here. I invited her to this meeting because she'd been passionate about cassava value chain, so much so that the former Minister of Agri, Dr. Adeshino, after testing her product, insisted that NAFDAC should give her approval for her product. Earlier, please, in 90 seconds, please just share a few things that will encourage people to launch straight into this business.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Ms. Elliot.
My name is Eliel Isaac from Akwa Ibom State. I want to really encourage so many people to go into cassava processing. And because I call cassava the white gold, because there's nothing lost in cassava. From the stem to the root to the leaf, you can change it to everything, anything you want to. Like the tubers, you can convert it into so many products like gari. That's a common one. It's a basic food for so many people. You can convert it to fufu, which can be powdered, which can be wet, and you can change it to cassava flour. You can make it into chips. And I promise you that you don't have anything to lose. Like the fermented water, that is the water that after the pressing, you use it for ethanol. That's what my factory is doing. That's the milestone we have gone, especially from last year. We don't waste the water. They put the post-production waste, call it so. So you can convert it into so many things, so many raw material that other companies can use. That is what cassava can do. Cassava is a white gold. And I encourage so many people to go into it. Like right now, the problem we are having is just like my factory. We need, the capacity is getting higher, and we need a whole lot of people to cultivate. We need supply of cassava. So what I do personally is to form cooperative where I source for land. I thank God Akwa Ibom land is so fertilized that any way you drop a stem of cassava, it will grow. So I encourage women to plant. I give my women the land. I cut it into pieces. I give to them. They cultivate for me, and I buy it from them again and feed my factory. So cassava is a white gold. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is my parting word, that if you get into the cassava value chain, you have just gotten into a gold mine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Odiala. Thank you to all our participants as well for joining the FarmNet webinar. This session educates a lot of testimonials and a lot of testimonials and lots of encouragement to go into cassava planting and processing. So let's thank Mr. Udiala, Miss Lydia, and Miss Elia. The FarmNet webinar is an initiative from AgroPreciso meant to provide expert guidance to farmers on best agricultural practices. This webinar is hosted once every month. So we want to implore you to look forward to our upcoming webinar for the month of May. We will put out the notifications and the marketing collaterals on our social media at AgroP Group. So you follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, follow us on LinkedIn at AgroP Group for more information on the FarmNet webinar. We would also be posting this video to our YouTube channel. So once that is done, you will get an email notifying you that the video has been uploaded to our YouTube, so that you can go back to it if you have any information that you may have missed out on during the webinar. So thank you for coming, everybody. If you have your questions, send it to info@agrop.co, and we look forward to hearing from you and seeing you at our next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, dismiss.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Bakare, for joining us. Unfortunately, we couldn't bring you in. God bless you so much.
Hello, Bakare. We look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Please
Yes.
No
join us.
problem. Thank you. It's a beautiful outing. Wait for next month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone. Good night.
Bye.